Hello. My name is Defne Bozkurt, and I came from Istanbul today to present to you a tiny project in the historic city center of Istanbul. I've come to represent a boutique architecture firm, Cafer Bozkurt Architecture, which is founded in 1971 by my father, Cafer Bozkurt. Before I get into the images and details of this one project, I'd like to say a few brief words about our family context. So my father was born in the historic city center of Istanbul in 1945, which is a time when the population of the city was under 1 million people. So it was a totally different period. And since he has quite a clear photographic memory from his age 10, so 1955, he grew up in a time where there were no bridges across the Bosphorus or no demolition of the urban fabric of the 60s and 80s, and before any dramatic social changes and dramatic urban changes. So he's he has a special favor in his heart for the historic city. But our office has been working on many different scales, many different types of projects, public and private projects. But this was one project that took place, which was right after his work on the historic committee, where he was the president of the historic committee for the historic peninsula. So that brought him back in a way to this ancient context. And a few words to myself. First I studied archaeology and then architecture in the US. So I came back to Turkey to find a very different context to practice architecture in. So it's quite a journey, I would say. So this building is our project is the entrance building to a cistern from the Byzantine period, and it was built by Emperor Theodosius in that period, at least, because this is something that we were able to understand from the column heads and the capitals of the cistern. So let me see. Right. And it's a public building, so it was given to us, to our office, from the Istanbul municipality. And unfortunately, we did not have a very big say over the construction or the site work. So as you can see, it's taking place right in the center of the city. You see here the red line, you see is the Mese Street, the old ancient historic line that leads all the way to where you see the number 3, it's Hagia Sophia and Sultan Ahmet underneath. So it's the heart of the ancient city, the Roman and then Byzantine and then Ottoman and then Turkish Republican time. Here you can see the right. So number 5 is the it's the right. Let me see. Right. Right. Our project is right here. And these are all the big cisterns from the Byzantine periods. This dates back to the 5th century BC, AD. The restoration work for the cistern, the underground structure, was not done by our office. It was previously done in 2015. It is based on a column grid of 8 by 4 columns, so 32 columns of 9-meter height. In different periods, there are different urban structures built on this site. So in the 1980s, there was a full building built right on top of it, and it was the municipal city hall, part of the municipal buildings, unfortunately. In 2010, the one part of it was demolished, so as to relieve the structure and bring out the original cistern underneath. The Arif Pasha mansion, which still remains today, was restored. And it doesn't look very clear, does it? No. Okay. The location is right on the Messe Street, which is the main circulation axis and the historic circulation axis. And in the diagram on the right, you can see how the other historic structures, like the library and the old turbe, which is a cemetery structure, they are all these isolated, very geometrically particular, like solitaires in the urban context. So we try to scale our building and specify it on our site with respect to those buildings. And as you can see on the site, this was the building that was built on top. Once it was demolished, the structure was visible, and they made a later entrance to it, which we then later, of course, once we started the archaeological work and the construction started, we found the original entrance underneath. And the important thing here is to understand that this is a very dense urban fabric, an historic fabric with a bustling city on top. So it is the main idea for us, the main important idea was to find a way to represent the building underneath, the cistern, to today's public that has no feeling or understanding of what is lying beneath their feet. So we try to put this pattern and axes of the historic cistern geometrically and represent it also on the plazas. So it wasn't just a building or an entrance, but the landscape and the surrounding area that made it special. On the left, you see the building, the view of the project before the project started. On the right, we still work with models. We still work with paper models, and we try to stay simple in the office. Right. And let me say something here. As you can see on this diagram here on the left, our building is superimposed on the corner of the existing structure, and one of the 4 columns, the structure, is standing on the first column of the original structure. So I will talk about the structure a little bit later, but so you can see a diagram of how we fit the building right on the corner, atop the corner, right there. And from the very beginning, we wanted to find a way to keep the building as light as possible, both in terms of weight as well as in terms of visually. It started out as a glass box with a transparent facade on the outside, and we went through quite a few ideas, but in the end we ended up deciding on a glass louver facade to keep it as transparent as possible. Although, of course, the first problem you would think about is the fact that it's very hot in the summer and a lot of tourists and visitors come to see the cistern, and it would be really, really warm inside. So the solar conditions had to really be taken into consideration. Right. And this is a view from the top of the site, so from the Cistern Plaza, which from this side it looks like it is a two-level building, and this offers an entrance from the top as well as an entrance from below. And as you can see, you see the geometry and scale and color of the historic cistern reflected onto the pavement and onto the materiality of the site. And so this here you can see the entrance from the top, from the Cistern Plaza, and there's a cafe that replaces a previous cafe that used to service the public square. So on this sort of middle level, we designed a small cafe. And the actual entrance is from the lower part of the site, from the Pierre-Loti Plaza. And Pierre-Loti was a 19th century French Ottoman writer who used to live in Istanbul, so that's an ancient name. So this is the simple entrance with a reflecting pool. You can see it's just a 20-centimeter reflecting pool to give this sort of transition into this, from the very busy street landscape, entering into this glass box, and then from there to enter into the cistern. Right, so you see the steel facade, and for the plans I can go through, but the basement is actually in the end of the presentation. We have some construction slides. You will see, because the first project that we worked on, we did not have this basement, but once the excavation started on the site, we found the foundations of the previous building that was sitting on top of this cistern. So once we started excavating all the rubble that was infill, we had a huge space. So we started rethinking the project and putting all the amenities and services in the basement. So there was a second project because of that. And you see the sections, very simple, actually extremely simple, and I think that's kind of what drew us to the project, because we work on different scales, on urban design scales, bigger factories and opera buildings and concert houses. So with this tiny building, we could just feel that delicacy and the care we had to take working in this context. Right, so these are the renders. Of course, because of the municipality taking over with the construction, we were never able to really end up with the same images that we wanted to in the end, but it is a well-used museum today with various activities. Because of the water element, there are a lot of multimedia activities that are done, and music is also part of that. You see the simple the construction drawings, and yes, so with the structure, the three columns of the four columns are sitting on their own weight, but the one column is sitting right on top of the original column. So we had to be careful about that. So most of the weight is diverted to these three columns that are not sitting on the historic structure. That was an important factor. Right. And we will have, yes, some interior images you can see. So it's a very multifaceted, flexible space in a way. And during the construction, it was quite an endeavor. And you see the the entrance, which was totally invisible before because of the building that was sitting on top. And some of the restoration work from the outside of the original stone construction, the original cistern walls. And the building behind with the plaza landscape. Right, so on the right side you see the original entrance, so we kept that and reinforced it. And the glass facade. And that's the end. Yes. So, if you have any questions.
Are there any questions?
What about the material that you use?
Yeah, well, it is you see the glass and steel and glass and very simple plywood walls on the inside, so drywall on the inside of the glass box, and nothing else. I mean, the concrete in the basement and the foundations. So, yes.
Ci sono altre domande? No? Ok. Thank you so much, Daphne. Thank you.